Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Duel Screens podcast, sponsored by Melted Pins and the minds behind the adventure games by Patrick Hickey Jr. I am one of your hosts, Stephen Fontana, and with me, as always, each and every week, it is Andy Asimakis. How are you, Andy?
I feel good about this guest this week, Stephen.
You do? I do, too.
Getting some fierce NES vibes from this game, and I can't wait.
Very specific corner of the NES life.
I have many thoughts. But we'll get to that.
I feel like the game that we're going to speak about was literally a construct of a fever dream of yours.
It may have been.
And joining us this week is Anthony Swinnich, a developer over at Neon Deity Games and currently working on JUNKPUNCHER. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. We appreciate it. We got to know you for about 4 minutes before hitting the record button. We got a good feeling about this one.
And it was fantastic.
I could already tell that this is going to be...
Great vibes.
Oh, yeah. Great
I'm already plotting ways to disappoint you guys.
Excellent.
Even better.
For those of you that are new to the Duel Screens podcast, this is an interview show where Andy and I bring on an industry guest to tell us their story and to discuss their latest project. Everyone in the gaming industry, be it a programmer, an artist, or a voice actor, has a story to tell, and this is their platform to do so. The Duel Screens podcast, easy for me to say, posts each and every Thursday for your listening pleasure on your podcast service of choice, including iHeartRadio and Spotify. And you can also find the show on our YouTube channel. Just search for Duel Screens Podcasts. And of course, you can find everything on duelscreens.com. When we aren't interviewing awesome video game devs like Anthony, Andy and I also host the Duel Screens Gamescast, a gaming news show that pits the most talked about headlines from Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft and declares the biggest winners and losers of the week. And that posts each and every Monday right here on the same channel. So you don't even have to sub to a different channel because A, we don't want to pay the money for the second channel, and B, it's convenient for you. One place. You get everything. And of course, we record that show live on Twitch every weekend. So go to twitch.tv/dualscreenstreams, hit that little follow button, or subscribe if you got an Amazon Prime Prime subscription. Just give us a little sub. It won't hurt you. That's right. And again, that posts each and every Monday right here on this channel. Please consider, if you are listening to this on Apple Podcasts, please consider leaving a review. It helps the show out tremendously. It really, really does. And there's one final way that you can help us, and that's with your cold, hard cash. You go to Patreon. That's right. Patreon.com/NDS podcast, just like our Patreon producer, Colton, the Apprentice Nestler. We cannot continue to grow without all of your support. So please head over to Patreon and consider backing us. You could back us with only $1. That's right. $1. And that gets you into our VIP Discord channel. It gets you a bonus episode that you vote the topic for. And there's a $3, a $5, a $10, a $25, $50, anything. Whatever your budget, we could support it. And you could support us. So please. Patreon.com/NDS podcast. All right, all that fun stuff is out of the way. All the good stuff.
You did good.
I think so.
Really good.
I'm feeling
some flubs here and there, but overall, I give it a A-.
So this is what happened, Andy. I got home from work and I cooked my steak and I ate my dinner. My wife left to go to work. She had an appointment, so she went out to go do her appointment. And not that kind of sounds a little bit nefarious, but she's a hairstylist. So
can I just add that when you ask for money via Patreon while also talk about your steak dinners is not a good look optics wise?
Well, I don't use the Patreon money for steak dinners. The Patreon money is strictly for NDS podcast and Dual Screens endeavors.
I had a 3-bean salad for dinner.
Wow.
And you're enjoying steaks.
Well, to be fair, I bought the chef specials of the filet cuts. It was like $13 for 2 steaks for like 12 ounces, 2 6-ounce fillets.
Right.
So I ate one yesterday and one today. So relax. Okay? Everything's fine over here in the Fontana household. All right? My wife just microwaved a bagel for dinner, so I don't want to hear it.
And again, you eat steak. It's optics.
She doesn't eat red meat. What can I tell you?
I'm looking good right now.
What can I tell you? She doesn't eat red meat.
Anthony, I apologize.
I can't
for this behavior.
I can't fix these things, Anthony. It's just the way the cookie crumbles. Okay?
I'm not sure what kind of podcast I signed up for here.
No one ever does, including the listeners. They never know.
Now, does your wife eat the cookie crumbs? Is that what happens?
Yes, she does. She gets the crumbs.
While you eat the actual cookie?
Yes. Yes. She gets my leftover milk because no one could ever finish a glass of milk. Everyone knows that. All right, Anthony. So welcome aboard.
I just want steak now.
Yeah. Well, head over to Key Food right over here in Brooklyn, New York. Get yourself some cheap steak. Throw a little Lowry seasoning salt, a little butter, a little oil, mix it together so it doesn't burn right away, and just cook that.
I think it's only like 6.5 hours from here to get to Brooklyn, so maybe I'll jump in the car after this and
There you go.
Scoop a couple of fillets up.
There you go. A little, just 3.5 minutes on each side, maybe 4 if you're feeling you want something more medium. I like a medium rare. Get a nice char on the outside, and it's beautiful. Nice.
Yeah, after a 6-hour drive, that sounds like no time at all.
Yeah. Exactly. I'll even let you stop by and use my stove, but you can't eat it here.
This is the best podcast deal I've ever had.
Welcome, Anthony, to the show. I literally played your game Junk Puncher about, I don't know, maybe a half an hour ago. Finally was able to kind of sit down and jump into it. You got yourself a really cool game here.
Thank you.
Why don't you introduce to the listeners and to Andy and I, who is Anthony Swinnich?
So I am Anthony Swinnich. I'm a indie game developer located in Buffalo, New York. Work with NeonDeityGames.com, which is me, Wayne Kubiak, and Garrett Varon, who are located in Manassas, Virginia, and I can't remember the name of the place ever in Ontario, respectively. Wayne did used to live in Buffalo here with me, but he has since moved on to warmer climates. So we decided to start making games at a game jam maybe 6 years ago-ish, and kind of never really stopped. That's the very, very brief top down of how I got into games dev. I used to do games journalism, and I was a journalism major / graduate in school, so I do have a background in the journalism side of things.
Who did you write for? What outlet?
Very many tiny, now defunct fan sites. I eventually culminated my writing expertise on indiegames.com.
Oh, cool.
But that feels like a lifetime ago now.
Yeah. So your career in game development officially started 6 years ago with the game jams then?
Yeah, I would say give or take 6 years ago. We were just hanging out, and are you guys familiar with the band Arm Cannon?
I think so. Let me see.
So they do video game covers and a more rock metal genre, and they're from here. So our programmer Garrett was friends with their guitarist, and we also knew them from being from the area. And he was like, "You guys should meet." So we all kind of met, and then one day just decided, let's do a game jam. Screw it, let's just go for it. So Wayne grabbed art, Garrett grabbed programming, I did music, and we just started making some stuff.
Oh, interesting. So you started in music then. So that was actually the first thing that really, and I'm sure Andy feels the same way. The music in Junk Puncher, at least from the very opening
moments. I was
like, oh my god,
this is it.
It's really awesome.
Thank you. I'm really particular about the accuracy when we're doing something kind of like this that feels, it's almost like a period piece, I guess, in a way. And I guess you don't think about that with video games a lot, but that's really what we're going for. So I'm trying really hard to hold to as much as I can without all of the little intricacies, the NES sound palette, and trying to make sure it sounds like it would sound on a Nintendo, minus sound file, like the sound channels dropping out when sound effects happen and stuff.
So you're actually using the tools that were available then to synthesize this music then?
So I'm using a program called FamiTracker, which is freeware, open source emulation software, basically, for the Nintendo. Anything I make in this, I can output into a sound file and actually play on a Nintendo.
That's awesome.
Yeah, back in the day when I was trying to do like NES style music, when I was trying to make my own Mega Man fan game, I had FamiTracker on my computer. Did not go too well because I have no musical ability whatsoever. So
well, you do have some ability. You have the ability to recognize good music.
I do,
and we're able to recognize how yours was not one of those.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's how I knew it wasn't right for me. in any
I
way.
would say none of us start off using FamiTracker well, and there is a steep learning curve at first for sure. I don't know how long ago it was that you used it, but for me, I looked on YouTube and was able to find some tutorial videos that kind of got me on the right path. But I'm not 100% always happy with my stuff. I don't think most artists are happy with everything they make, but I'm way happier today doing it than I was when I started. But that's like 6 years in the making for me to sometimes be okay with what I'm writing.
It may have been pre-YouTube when I was looking into this.
I mean, to speak on not being happy with your art, shit, how many episodes have we done, Andy? In total?
A lot.
Yeah. It's
3 years though.
yeah, 3 years worth of podcasting, and you know,
Mhm.
there's always room to improve. There's always
It always gets
you're always
better.
very critical of what of your yes. Oh yeah, it could always get
So it's nice getting a little snapshot of Anthony from himself, but I did a Google search to see what
oh boy.
the internet had to say about who Anthony
Oh,
is.
I'm curious
And
about what you found.
This may be a fun little thing we do for a future
all
guest,
right.
Steven.
You know what? Let's get in the doc. So I
So,
have the opening question that we're gonna ask from now on is who is, and we're gonna let the person answer it, and then we're gonna say, well, who does Google think you are?
Because I try not to do too much research on guests if I can help it. Because I like to go a little fresh and kind of get like everything kind of brand new information going in.
You didn't
Makes it
notify
more
the police,
spontaneous.
did you, that you have me on the line? Because if so, I got to go.
No, we don't want them to know Andy's on the line.
Oh, okay.
So
Fair,
you're
fair trade,
safe.
fair trade.
So I punched in your name into Google, and here are the first 3 results that came up. One is your Twitter handle, which is hang on, get ready. All right. Pretty tame so far.
That is accurate. Google is 1 for 1.
Pretty tame. The second is about your time at Indie Games Plus. It has an article from 2014.
Oh,
So back to your writing days. So
I wonder.
still you.
They got bought. Well, they didn't get bought, but they divorced from their parent company,
Mhm.
and in the transition, some of the articles got mixed up. So I wonder if it's actually one of my articles or if it's one of the ones that I got attributed to falsely.
Interesting.
I'm gonna have to look that up.
Your
Later.
profile, like it had your name and it says author at Indie Games Plus. So
Okay.
it was all your work under their website. Now the third one is why I even mentioned this at all, because it's very interesting.
Oh, here we go.
And it's also why this has now become a segment on the show.
Here we
There's
go.
an Anthony Swinnich who is currently at the St. Augustine Cemetery, who died in 1971 in Lancaster, New York. So your thoughts on that?
So Anthony, are you speaking to us from
the beyond?
the grave?
Or did you steal this man's identity? Which makes for even more scandalous. See, we mentioned getting to secrets, Anthony, before the show started.
Can I
This
say
may
I'm
be
a ghost? Can we just go with the ghost one?
Ooh, a spectral ghost.
Are you not in a witness protection program as we speak?
that may have been my grandfather, but I'm not sure. That sounds about the time he may have died.
Wow.
Which was before my time. So that may have been my grandfather.
Andy, you are revealing secrets. You're the journalist here.
Yeah.
You're getting down to the nitty gritty.
Yeah, and Lancaster's really close to here, so
Wow.
I'm not sure if he was buried there. I would be surprised. I don't know that I've ever actually been to his grave, so could very well be him.
Rise from your grave. All right, so
Power up.
let's what do you say we get back to the business at hand, which is Junk
should.
Puncher.
We should.
So it's funny because I didn't do any research, so I don't know what you contributed to Junk Puncher, and I could tell you very honestly, very openly, that the first thing I wanted to talk about was the music. So I'm glad that you're the one that's here, because like instantly just I didn't even touch the keyboard. I just kind of let the music play because it's really, really good. Can you talk about your specific experience in coming up with the tracks for Junk Puncher, especially the one that we played in the demo?
So I'm a huge fan of obviously the Nintendo, but like specifically Konami and a lot of Natsumi stuff. Like Shatterhand is a huge influence on this game completely. If you guys are unfamiliar with Shatterhand, I recommend very wholeheartedly playing that. and you'll see where a lot of our influences come from. I really love the way Nintendo composers back in the day used to take genres and like of real music and then apply all of those formulas and tenets to the 2A03 and the original Nintendo. So you get a lot of rock and a lot of metal tendencies. And, I grew up listening to that stuff, and it's very near and dear to me. So when I listen to a soundtrack from, like I said, Konami or the Shatterhand soundtrack specifically, those are huge influences on how I try to communicate the mood and the style of what I want the player to be feeling.
Yeah, that was in my email to you, by the way. I was like, I'm getting severe Shatterhand vibes from this game.
You did say that.
See, I instantly...
And it comes through, like, so prominently.
I instantly picked up Matsume, like, almost immediately. Just the way... I don't know if it was the actual, like, music alone, or if it was the music with the aesthetic of the very, opening... of the level, not the opening cinematic, but like the actual level music that starts. See, I got very, very Mega Man vibes from that.
Yeah, especially the way the character drops in kind of gives you that Mega Man feel. And yeah, Capcom's a huge influence. I don't know if there's anybody out there working at Family Tracker today that could tell you Capcom's not an influence. I think we all grew up playing those games, and it's just kind of ingrained in our bones at this point.
It's like back when soundtracks to games were a lot more catchier than they are today. I feel like now when I sit back and enjoy like some video game tunes, it's mostly from the NES and SNES era. Like there's some bits of like, Final Fantasy VII in there, or Shadow of the Colossus, or Ocarina of Time, but a lot of it, like the things that are really in my brain, like the theme song for the first level of Junk Puncher, it's already in my head. It's just so catchy. Do you think it's hard to make catchier soundtracks these days?
I think having more tools available and a basically unlimited amount of space with which to use them has allowed people to kind of expand what they're doing soundscape-wise, and they're able to do more cinematic experiences. With stuff like the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, even Nintendo 64 and PlayStation, they only had so much room for these tracks to kind of do their thing, so they had to make sure every note counted. So the reason why you don't get sick of a 45-second loop in a Mega Man track is because there's a very specific formula they use to keep the brain jumping from part to part. Even though they're very short, it kind of tricks you into like it's like a formulaic pattern to just keep your brain jumping around and making it more interesting in that way.
Did you have to research that formula, or is that something that just came naturally to you? Is it something that like you knew from just listening to it that there was a formula? Like, speak about that.
So when I started writing stuff for our first game, Shoot Chimi, Seriously Swole, I was intrigued by what made Mega Man music, and I just kind of sat down at one point and was like, all right, let's pop on a couple of these Mega Man 2 tracks and see what they're doing exactly. And I was actually very surprised to find out that like there was a very specific way they did it, since they could only be so long and they only had so many tempos they could work with and so many instruments they could use. So Mega Man tracks specifically usually have an introduction, which is very short but kind of introduces the main, I don't want to say phrase, but the feel. And then they do like an A part, a B part, and a C part, and then loop back. And it usually happens over the course of about 40 seconds or so. Sometimes 50, somewhere between 40 and 50 though. And I was super surprised to find so many games use that exact style of formula, because they just couldn't do more. There just wasn't room on the cartridge for more to do.
Now I'm curious. Now I kind of want to go back and I want to like time all of the tracks, just because I mean, how many songs are just ingrained in our heads as a kid, and we do them from memory. Like we know A, B, and C, and loop back to A automatically. It's not like there's an end to these songs; they go on forever. Have you ever like known anybody to start humming the Mario theme from Super Mario Brothers, and has a crescendo with an ending? No, right? Just
what?
It's just like these things. They loop in our brains. They're just ingrained in our heads to just play forever. I don't know how the Zelda overworld themes ends. No clue, because it doesn't.
Right.
It never ends.
Yeah, they just fade out when you leave the scene.
Yeah. I find this whole thing fascinating because unless you obviously until it was pointed out to me, I never thought that it was a formula that most of these composers actually followed, whether it was on purpose, like they all knew it, or if it was just individually the limitations that they had and they all figured out that limitation or whatever, or maybe Nintendo gave them a guideline and said, hey, this is how big each track needs to be in order to fit, the cart. I don't know. That's
I like the idea that they had this like shadowy cabal meeting in this like underground smoky jazz club, and they're like, all right, now that we're composing for this new Nintendo system, let's talk about the guidelines, which I'm sure was not the case. I think it was just a matter of how the tools presented themselves and what they had. I think it was very on the rails what you had to work with and what you didn't, because a lot of like stuff like even stuff like Shovel Knight, like Jake's also one of those guys who's very specific about making sure he is era accurate with his recreations. But I think even he would say like a lot of what he makes is like NES Plus in terms of like not having sound channels drop out because the sound effects don't need to play at the same time.
right.
But I know they were very limited in the way that they were able to use instruments and effects too, because you were only able to have a couple per game because you only had X amount of bytes to write a soundtrack with. So like with this, I can use as many effects and bells and whistles as I want with FamiTracker. And there's no limit. It's just an MP3 that I give the programmer and we stick it in the game and put loop points up. So we're not constrained by that, but it's incredible the diverse sound they were able to pull out of just a couple of channels and maybe like 3 or 4 effects total.
Do you know, like from 85 to 88, the carts were a very specific size. I don't remember that, but they were much smaller. And Super Mario Brothers 3, I believe, changed the size of the cart that was able to be used in the NES. Do you know if any of your favorite games or your inspirations, the formula changed from cart to cart?
I don't know what the cart values were. I know it has to do with the mappers, right? The MMC3 and the MMC5. Mm-hmm. I think those were the cartridges. I've never really analyzed Mario 3's music from a structural standpoint, so that's an interesting thing I'll have to look into after this interview. I feel like even like up to Castlevania 3, which used the VRC6 expansion chip in Japan, it still kept to that like ABC part type of formula. I don't think they really rocked the boat too much on that.
Yeah, I've gone back and heard like the Castlevania 3 soundtrack, the Japan version, because they had the extra sound chip, Konami, and it's like night and day, I feel, in a lot of ways. Like that extra level of depth they're able to achieve with just...
There's an intense debate in the chiptune community about that, and everybody's on one side or the other. I prefer the Nintendo...
Oh, there's the purists, and then like...
Well, so the Japanese people are I don't want to say Japanese people. The people who prefer the Japanese soundtrack are technically correct because I believe that came out first, and then because the US Nintendo is missing one resistor on the board, it literally can't play the VRC6 expansion chip in the cartridge. Mm-hmm. So we had to have a stripped down version where the cartridge doesn't actually have the chip that can play the extra channels. So they had to not recompose the songs, but restructure them so they don't have the extra channel work. So you have a more, I don't want to say cleaner sound, but it's a more like, it's just 4 channels instead of 7.
Right.
So I don't think it sounds less good. It definitely does sound less full though.
Yeah. Yes. That's a good way of putting it. So let's dive a little bit into Junk Puncher and its story and gameplay. So I booted this thing up the other day, and I was met with a Marty McFly looking kind of character, those little blue jeans and red vest, looks like. Mm-hmm. And he is on a bike delivering a package. And my first thought was, I just finished Death Stranding. God damn it. So he's delivering a package which contains this robotic arm, and take it from there, Anthony. What happens next?
So yeah, you're a delivery person and you're making your last drop for the night, and suddenly you're blindsided by a truck, and you go one way, your motorcycle goes the other way, the package explodes, you get up, you're fine, but there's a mysterious mechanical arm sitting in the rubble, and you pick it up and you try it on, and it's stuck. You can't get it off. So what's a guy to do? I guess take it to the place where it's supposed to go and see if they can help. So what didn't get done in time for MagFest, and it's something that we have to get in, is you are being chased by the military who are trying to procure this arm at all costs. So that is why you are fighting on your way to this location to deliver this arm.
The first thing I thought of was Witchblade a little bit, and the Guyver. How there's this mechanical thing, and I'm putting it on, now I'm using it to fend off those who want it, essentially.
So
I am unfamiliar with Witchblade, but I will be looking it up after this for
graphic
sure.
Novel from like the 90s, I think.
I'd like to make sure to familiarize myself with it so as to not rip it off any further.
Well, there's more mystical, like heaven and hell sort of things with the Witchblade, so I think you're safe.
Yeah, we're not going down that route.
Right.
Purely going to be more of a sci-fi story rooted in as realistic as sci-fi Blade Runner-ish can be. Much less demons and things of that sort.
I was gonna say it kind of reminds me of what filmmakers and game makers in the 80s thought the future would look like. That's the vibes I got from this one, like retro future.
I had to stop myself several times from saying like it's the year 1980X or whatever.
Yeah.
Since everybody thought the future was going to be something like that. And here we are in 2020 and I still don't have hoverboards or flying cars.
One thing you should double check though is the name of the game, because it's also a fetish film.
Right.
Just so you're aware. No, I'm kidding.
It's also one of my hobbies. It's what I do on the train. I just go and I just start punching junk.
Listen, we're not going to kink shame you on the show, Stephen.
No,
right?
listen.
You do you.
Yeah.
I'm personally on media blackout till the next Junk Puncher video arrives.
Gotcha. Well, no spoilers, but junk will get punched. You know what's interesting, and I just read this not too long ago, but this year. So in Back to the Future, Marty goes back to 1955, but if Back to the Future was made this year, he'd be going back to 1985, which was the year that the film was made. Does that just
kind of make
does that just fuck your brain up? That it completely fucks my head up.
I really wish you didn't tell me that.
Just putting that one out there. I read that and I was like, oh Christ. Oh no.
All right, so Anthony, it's a side-scrolling platformer. You're punching junk in the demo, at least. What can we expect in terms of like the gameplay, power-ups, and those kinds of things? Or what can you say at this point?
I mean, I can give you guys basically the full Monty, and I'm not going to give away like bosses and like story structure, but so the game in the demo right now it's a pretty limited snapshot of early gameplay. So you're running side to side, jumping up and down obstacles, punching. You have your 3-hit combo. You can slide, and that's the gist of what you can do in the demo. But as you go forward and you progress through your sci-fi journey to save the world, you will eventually unlock abilities like a ground pound, which will smash through the floor, and also do double as an attack. All of the abilities will double as attacks. You can do an uppercut, which is also an offensive maneuver, but also serves as a double jump. And there will be a dash punch that we are still determining whether or not it will be charge or double tap punch.
Interesting. Okay.
I think I want to push you towards charge.
So it's all going to come down to how it feels while we're designing the levels, because we're putting a pretty heavy emphasis on trying to make sure the levels all have good routes for speedrunning and have good feel. So if the charge punch doesn't feel quite right, we're going to do double tap, but it's all going to depend on flow and level building. We haven't started building any of that yet. So
see, I love how when games are designed this way, like when I was playing it, for some reason I was trying to make a speedrun of the demo, and then trying a no damage boss run at the end.
So if you, at the title screen of the demo, hit T, I believe is the key, you'll unlock a speedrun mode.
Well, that's
And it will time you.
Okay, all right then. I might have
You have
accidentally
to
put that on
toggle
'cause I was
that on
trying
and
to
off
figure out all of the. I was trying to figure out which two keys did what. I got the arrow keys, and I'm like, where is everything else? Because my controller, I could not find my controller when I was playing. So I did play.
Mine was able to all detect. I was like, this is amazing. It knows what I have. It can see.
No. I couldn't find my controller.
Oh, you couldn't physically find it.
No, because I give it to my kid to pretend she's playing. My daughter.
Can't you like another hunk of plastic?
I could, but that's the cheapest hunk of plastic I have. it's a GameStop Xbox 360 controller, so it's really, I mean, wow, this is riveting,
it was
radio.
It was pretty important for us to make sure that as you go through the game, it's not stagnant and static, that you're doing exactly the same thing that you did at the start that you do at the finish. So we wanted to give the player the ability to expand their abilities and moveset while also giving us the ability to kind of flex our design muscles with new abilities as well.
Are you guys going to aim for more like because I get like a sense of that Ninja Gaiden kind of storytelling, like little cutscenes?
Yeah, definitely. Ninja Gaiden is the benchmark with which we're studying to see how they did things, what's the pacing, how do they write it. I don't want it to be quite so stilted in its English, but I also think there's a certain charm to that. So I don't think we're going to be writing War and Peace, but I don't want to go quite English level, but
all your base up belong to us.
We're not going to do a lot of that, but I definitely like I like to read the story and then I wonder who's saying it.
Am I after me? They are after me.
Listen, a winner is you, in case you're wondering.
Yes, some of these those typos and mistranslations become etched in history. Maybe you could reverse mistranslate. Like, make the Japanese text seem ridiculous. Like, find a word that's close enough.
But who would get that?
The Japanese, obviously. I mean, I feel like that's pretty obvious there, Andy.
So, this game being huge in the Japanese market then there, Anthony?
Man, do these guys even know Japanese? Who translated this?
Why is this? Yeah, no, I can't even.
Syntax is all wrong.
Oh, what's up with the giant hot dog store in the game, by the way? There's like, just for those who are listening, there's a giant store with a neon, it says dogs. I was like, who's selling puppies in this game?
So you may have noticed earlier in the demo, right toward the beginning, there's one that says Berg, BRG.
Right.
So we made a burger stand and we made a hot dog stand, and we want there to be some kind of an event there that happens where you perform an action and then you're rewarded with food that will heal you, but we were unable to get that done in time for MagFest. So we kept the dog stand in for the time being. And if you go over to the dog stand, you'll trigger, and if you break the box, you'll trigger a dog that will spawn.
Yes, that's what I got. That's why I laughed
out
loud.
If you ignore that, then there will be no dog.
Because I was wondering, was that on purpose? Because I walked over there and I'm like, there's a dog sign. Oh, it's hot dogs. Okay, I'm dumb. You go on the right. And then the cyborg dog lunged at me. I was like, these sons of bitches.
Yeah, we want that to be an event where you I think we want it to be that you go to the hot dog stand and the person running the stand is being accosted by a soldier, and then you save them, and then they're like, oh, thank you, here's a hot dog, and then you get some life back. Minus the cyber dog that will attack you in the future.
Now wait a minute. What if cyber dog, when you help, like let's say the cyber dog is you kill the robot or whatever that's the master of cyber dog, but you don't hurt cyber dog, and then as a reward he vomits up a hot dog for you to eat and restore health.
I think that is disgusting, but also hilarious.
He's a robot, so it's not like it's got any sort of bile on it. It's just he deposits.
He's just holding it for you.
Yeah, that's his function.
He's a mobile refrigeration unit / pack dog.
Exactly, right. / oven.
No, it's sloshing in dirty water.
Dirty water dog.
Hot dog vendor.
That's his name. Dirty water dog.
Metal belly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what we call hot dogs here in New York, by the way. The street dogs, we call them dirty water dogs. I don't know if you know that.
Next time I come through, I'm going to ask for a dirty water dog.
Dirty
and
water
see if
dog,
I get
yeah,
one.
dirty water dog.
Yeah, on your way to Brooklyn.
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
You're gonna-
I'm on the way to my fillet.
Grill up some steaks.
Listen, I would take 2 dirty water dogs over a fillet any day of the week. Throw some sauerkraut on there. Delicious.
You know,
Dirty
I
water
kind of want to
dogs.
mock you for that, but I'm on the same boat as you are.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't need
'Cause they're
ketchup.
so
I don't
bad
need
they're
mustard.
good.
All I need is sauerkraut. Just give me the sauerkraut. Give me the hot dog. I'll shove that shit right in my face. You know what? What can make or break the dirty water dog experience, though? Don't give me a soggy bun.
Yes.
I'll take a steamed bun. Don't make me put my lips on a wet bun. Just don't make me do it. Just don't make me
Soggy
do it.
bread is gross in general.
Yeah, just a steamed bun is okay. A soft, steamed, hot bun, great. I'm all about it. I would even take a toasted bun. I like crunch as well. But don't give me no hot dog with something wet.
Can you timestamp that? Because I want to cut out you saying, "Don't put my lips on a wet bun."
35 minutes into the show. 35 minutes into the unedited
In
show, I
some
should
way
say.
down the line. I'm not sure where, but I'm sure at some point it'll come in handy.
So, in addition to the audio, I also do all the level designing, and much of the concepting for this game is from me. I would say that of the three of us, this game is my game to be the lead. We're all going to do one at some point, but this one happens to be mine. So,
Oh, awesome.
don't limit yourselves to audio questions. If you have anything you want to ask, I'm the guy.
Awesome. All right, so let's talk a little bit about level design. So you spoke about how the power-ups that you're going to be putting into this game go hand in hand with how you're going to be designing levels, because you want to have them be speedrun ready. How do you balance making a good video game with that has coherent level design, and also making a level design that's good for speedrunning, which isn't exactly a coherent way of playing a video game?
So I've never designed for speedrunning before this. It's a lot of trial and error, and just making sure the level flows well if you're just playing, and then doing it all again as quickly as I can to see if it flows well. And a lot of times things work well for one and don't work well for the other. So there's definitely compromise in design there, where there's a jump that might be fun to do in a speed run, but it's just slightly too far for a normal playthrough. So you got to kind of like hedge your bets and meet in the middle somewhere.
So you mentioned looking at or listening to like Mega Man tunes or the old soundtracks and Ninja Gaiden for like the cutscene story elements. What do you look at to get influence for level design, or what's like standard of a top-notch retro level design in your eyes?
I know Ninja Gaiden gets a lot of flack for its difficulty, and rightfully so for some aspects of it. Like there's definitely some bum enemy placement, and there's some. So I don't think Ninja Gaiden is exactly as hard as everybody thinks it is, which is maybe a controversial opinion.
Well, listen, when I was at that beat, it's how hard can it possibly be?
I think there's a couple of choke points that are incredibly frustrating, and I don't even disagree with those being a problem. But I think by and large, especially Ninja Gaiden 2, which I think is far easier of the two originals.
Agreed.
I think there's a lot of really great enemy placement and cool tricks you can do, and just if you know the game really well, you can just breeze right through it. And so that's one. What other games do I like the flow of? I like the flow of Super Metroid a lot. Those games always have a really great feel. Every room tells its own little story, and if you know what you're doing in it, you can get through it in a way that looks cool, but also feels really good and authentic to get through. Like you feel like you're, I don't know, powerful in a way. I don't know what other non-cheesy word to use there. Like if you can get through a level unscathed as quickly as possible, you just feel like a god. So I'm trying to evoke that feeling. I'm trying to give the player this feeling that they're like this avatar of power. But of course, that's an earned thing. Like you have to learn the level, you have to learn the nuances of the game, and figure out like if you hold down while sliding and don't stop holding down, you can just keep sliding, and you can do that in Junk Puncher. Like you won't pop back up.
I also want to thank you for sticking to like a traditional like side-scrolling platformer and not going like a Metroidvania kind of route with this game, which I feel like it could be an easy trap to fall into, because we need more like just simple going left to right
and up and down too. There's some up and down sections, right?
That as well. Yeah. but like just a no frills kind of retro inspired game.
I'm
I've got a lot
glad
of
that's appreciated.
What was that?
I said I'm really glad that's appreciated.
Yes.
I'm a huge fan of level based A to B. Like take me through levels 1 through 9, and let me do my adventure.
Right.
I like backtracking games. I do enjoy all the Igavanias. Right, those are great. And I play Metroid games all the time. But sometimes I just want to go straight through an adventure and do what's in front of me, and then continue on with the next task. I don't think every game needs to be Metroidvania. I don't think every game needs crafting. I don't think every game needs to be Dark Souls. I think sometimes you can make a period piece that feels like an old game, and you don't have to bring a lot of that stuff in.
And there's just so much of it out there these days.
Oh,
I
for
feel
sure.
like, listen, I love a good Metroidvania if it's done properly, but if you go on Kickstarter, there's just so many of them that are just being made. I feel like at some point the quality will dip. And it's when you see a game like yours, it just harkens back to a time where developers stuck to the basics, like great sound design, great level design, colorful as all hell, and just fun gameplay. That's not bogged down by a bunch of systems.
Yeah, I'm glad that there's an audience for that, because it's 100% what we're trying to do here. And there will be areas like you saw in the demo where the sewer, where you kind of go off to the one room, wrap around, and come out the other end.
Right.
I like design like that, where it's kind of like its own mini level in a way, but I don't ever want it to be like go all the way over here, grab the key, come back all the way over
Right.
here.
It was like hit a lever here, then do a slight little backtrack. I mean, that I like that. It's not like super like out there.
You're also
but again,
you're not stopping to think where you should go.
It doesn't break the flow
flows into it.
Yeah, I don't ever want the player to be confused on their path forward. I'm not saying that there won't be like a level or something like that later in the game. Like I haven't designed it yet. We might do something puzzly like that. I doubt it, but it's possible. So I don't want to like paint myself into a box here and then get called back on the show in a year and a half and goes, "Well, you said that you wouldn't do this." But
roll the clip.
I really like the idea that like you're on your mission, you know what you're doing. It's up to you to get it done. And I don't want the player to be thinking, I don't know where to go ever. It's the worst feeling in games. Like I love Zelda games, but I was watching my friend play what was Link's Awakening for the first time. He's never played it before, and I haven't played it in 20 years. So we're hanging out at his house, and he's like, "Let me show you where I am." And he's like, "I don't know where to go," and I know what he needs, but I don't know where to get it. And he's just so like, "This is why I don't play Zelda games." It's such a bad feeling, and I don't want to impart that on anybody in this specific one.
I feel like you should have your friend give Steven a call. They might be secret best friends.
I wanted to punch that game right in the throat.
He did a recent Twitch, well, not recent, but not too long ago. He did a Twitch stream
Like
of
6
Link's
months
Awakening.
ago. Yeah,
Right, and
the
you
OG.
were stuck in the first dungeon.
No, I wasn't stuck in the first dungeon. First of all, they only allude. They give you riddles. Why do I have to play? I'm assuming I'm like 8 years old, right? An 8-year-old's not solving riddles, and my brain.
Were you playing the Game Boy version or the
Game Boy?
Okay.
And I just wasn't ready for that mindset. I wasn't ready for that. Like Zelda games, that game is not like the Zelda games that I remember. Like, yes, you had to problem solve and stuff like that, but like this game was just literally like, oh, there's a shoe, that smell, and you're like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? What do you mean? And then you'd have to like decipher. You'd be like, oh, there's a shoe kind of in the corner of this room. Oh, it smells. Okay, I got it. Like that's not literally, but like that's the kind of thing, and it could be all the way. Anyway, whatever. I don't want to get on a tangent, but yes, I know what you're saying, Anthony. It's you're making an action game. You're not making a adventure puzzle game, and it's sometimes those elements can get brought in out of fear of being too much of one thing. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. What I want to do now, before we get into our ad read and before we get into the final segment here of rapid fire questions, I'm actually going to take a short, not real life break, but I want to put in if you don't mind, Anthony, I would like for the listeners to hear the music for level 1. Would that be cool?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So we're going to put that in right now, listener. All right, welcome back. That was awesome. I love that song. I love it. I love it. I love the style. I love everything about it, and I can't wait to hear.
It just puts me in the mood.
It does, doesn't it?
You know what I mean?
You know what? There is one thing I did want to ask you before we get into rapid fire. What is your guys' plan for as you get closer to finishing this project? What is your plan for Junk Puncher?
So I don't want to say it's in the air because there's nothing to necessarily be in the air. The loose timetable is at some point within the next few months, we're going to get a little bit more done so we have some visual diversity so we can throw a trailer together for Kickstarter. We're hoping that with the Kickstarter, we will determine if there are any other platforms aside from the Switch, which is the only one that we're confirmed for, that we're going to see if people want us on it via comments and stretch goals and that kind of stuff, should the Kickstarter be successful. And we'll gauge our interest there. From there, it's just a matter of trying to finish the game, build the levels, craft the bosses, get the story in, and hopefully have it done by the end of the calendar year, if not released. But game dev is not a science, and it never goes how you think it's going to. So we're targeting the end of the year, but we'll see. And hopefully along the line somewhere, a publisher or a PR company will come in and be like, "Hi, friends, we'd like to work with you." And we will have forged a new friendship and business relationship with somebody, but there's currently nothing to report on that front.
Do you guys do you think that this part always intrigues me about the business, especially from the indie dev perspective, because it's not like you guys can or know where to really go and court a publisher. Like a lot of devs just don't know. It's kind of like they either just bump into them at a convention or whatever. But do you guys have a sort of roadmap to not apply? That's not the word I'm looking for, but like shop the product, as it were, or are you planning on staying the course as an independent situation and just kind of hope something comes along?
I think it'll depend on if we get something across our table that looks like it's going to work for both parties. There's definitely some predatory companies out there, none of which I will name right now, but there's some predatory companies out there that kind of swoop in a little early and try and take advantage of people who, like you said, don't have that knowledge or that ability to know, like, maybe this isn't the best deal on the market. So I would like to at least maybe work with the PR company for things like getting the game out there, getting some ads made, that kind of stuff. We already have our kits, so we don't necessarily need somebody to get us on the Switch because we're already approved, which is super nice. So in that regard, we already have that taken care of. But it's just a matter of asking around, asking other devs, talking to companies, not being afraid to say no. Like if something doesn't look right or smell right or just isn't necessarily the right deal, and you know, even coming from the best place, maybe it's just not right for you. We had a publishing deal for our first game, and all in all, I was happy with how it went. But I think we learned a lot from that. And then hearing some of the negative stories that are out there that we did not experience firsthand. But I'm sure you guys are familiar with some of the stuff that's come out in recent months about publishers in Japan that are more on the indie side of things. I'm not going to drop exact names, but there's some horror stories out there. So if you're not really if you're not really doing your research, crossing your T's and dotting your I's and talking to the other devs, you're not going to know all of the full truth because not everything is always as it seems.
Interesting.
Yeah, didn't we hear a story about that a while ago, Stephen?
I don't.
After the show ended, there was a bit about a predatory.
I don't
publisher.
remember, honestly.
Cut, but yeah.
Okay, final little thing before we get into rapid fire. How did getting approved for Switch go? Like, what was that situation like?
So when the Switch first came out, we were like, oh, we were already on Wii U with Shushimi, so this shouldn't be an issue. So we contacted our rep and we were like, hey, can we get a kit? And they said no.
Wow.
Which was great. Like, just a straight up no. Like, we were like, oh, well, I guess that's not happening. So when we started prototyping this, we were, debating what we were going to do. And as we've gone forward, Nintendo's kind of loosened the strings on who can and can't have kits. So we had a friend that has made a successful PC shooter called Shotgun Farmers. He applied to Nintendo, and they also told him no. But then we had some other friends in the area that made Freedom Finger. If you guys have heard of that.
Freedom Finger.
Yeah, so you guys are familiar with that.
We've had Jim on the show.
Yeah, Jim's a great guy.
Yeah.
So we talked with one of his devs and Jim himself, and we are like, hey, how'd you guys get approved on the Switch? And they sent us their nice little pitch deck that they sent Nintendo, and we ripped it off wholesale.
Nice.
The whole formula is it was a really good formula. It was a really nice deck. So I basically took their idea and built our own version of that. And thanks to Jim and thanks to Mark for hooking me up with that. And I think if you present yourself professionally to a company that expects professionalism, you will receive professional results. And I'm surprised that we also needed to learn that.
So you're a man of formulas, I gather, as well, Anthony.
Yeah, I would say so.
For your pitches to Nintendo.
Well, I was not in charge of the first pitch. Our programmer who did all the publishing on the first game figured we were in good with them, and that was, as many indie devs can tell you, not the case for almost anybody at the start of the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
All right, folks, it's time for everybody's favorite segment. It's time to get into rapid fire questions. But before we do that, I'll tell you about our sponsors, right? That's right. meltedpins.com. What is meltedpins.com? Well, it's simple. Artist Kelsey Lynn does original tattoo art inspired pins, buttons, stickers, canvas bags, you name it. You name it. Kelsey's making beautiful art for it. Original art. Really cool designs, some funny, some just gorgeous. And if you go right now to meltedpins.com and you find something you like, I mean, there's stuff on there that's like $1. But how does, instead of spending $1, how about you spend 90 cents? That's right. If you use the checkout code NDSmelted, you will get 10% off of your purchase. Just like that. Just like that. Meltedpins.com, checkout code NDSmelted. And we wouldn't allow this. We wouldn't allow Melted Pins to be a sponsor if we didn't believe in it. I have purchased Melted Pins before. And art and Kelsey Lynn, she's done art for our show. For multiple shows, for tons of podcasts and websites. She's very talented. And
can you use that discount code and buy 10 and get 1 pin for free?
What?
That should be part of the pitch there,
Math.
Steven. See, this is why we bring on the smart ones.
This is why. This is
the man of formulas living up to his...
Yeah, exactly. Living up to your name.
Once again, folks, that's meltedpins.com. And if you want to follow Melted Pins, you can do so at Melted Pins. And our second sponsor is Patrick Hickey Jr.'s The Minds Behind the Adventure Games. It is out right now on patrickhickey.com and amazon.com. You don't know? Do you not know what The Minds Behind the Adventure Games is? Well, it's simple. It is the second book in a series of books that Patrick is creating. Patrick is a former guest of ours. He's going to be a future guest of ours as of this recording. He's going to be on... He's a great friend of the show, but he's also brilliant. And his books are interviews with tons of developers and programmers and artists and just all sorts of brilliant minds that make the games that we love, right? And interviews them, and they recount the endless hours of painstaking development, the challenges of working with mega publishers, the growth of the adventure genre, and reveal creative process that produced some of the industry's biggest hits, cult classics, and indie successes. Like, unbelievable stories. His first book, The Minds Behind the Games, the story about the development behind E.T., the extraterrestrial on the Atari, with the creator, was it Warshak? I believe Warshak.
Is that the ink blot thing?
The game is like a Rorschach painting.
Yeah. It's incredible. It's just an incredible way to learn about the games that you love, that you grew up with, and everything like that. So please, if you go to Amazon.com, you could buy the book rather. It's The Minds Behind the Adventure Games, and you can also buy that at patrickhickeyjr.com. And any book that's purchased.
This is E.T. What do you see? All I see is a trash fire.
If you go to patrickhickey.com, patrickhickeyjr.com, I believe he's still doing this, but any book that's purchased from there comes from his personal office, and he signs every copy. So, there you go. All right. It is time for rapid fire questions.
I love this segment. It's getting better and better, I feel.
It is. It is. We're really just hitting this thing home lately. All right. Anthony, we're going to start with what we thought would be a controversial question, but the answer has been we're batting 1,000 with the answer.
Well, don't lead him that way now.
So wait, but hold on here. Just know that you could be the outlier. You could be the one to choose the answer that differs from all of the previous guests from you.
Well, I can only be the best me that I can be, so let's see what happens.
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
No.
Oh, that was fast, too.
That was very fast.
No, ew.
Well, congratulations. You are the one.
I'm the one to say no?
You're the one to say no.
What? Mm-hmm. Maniacs.
You're my new best friend, Anthony.
Andy?
Because I am in the firm camp that pineapple should not go on pizza.
No, I'm not a fan.
Travesty.
All right, Andy.
All right.
And I have had it. I will preface that, or supplement that, I guess would be the proper term, to say that I have actually experienced pineapple on pizza. It's not one of those things where I can't imagine that it would be good. I don't like it. I know that I don't.
What is the most useless major in college?
Given the lack of care people put into their communication, I'm going to go ahead and say English, even though it shouldn't be.
Oh, boy.
Big believer in the written word and our ability to communicate, and very sad about the failing state of that, but it definitely didn't get me a job anywhere, so.
Well, let's just see here. I was a theater major, English minor, then an English major, film and television minor. So I was just the trifecta of uselessness.
How'd all that work out for you?
Favorite movie?
Ooh, that's a good one. And I have to say one?
Just that one movie. It doesn't necessarily have to be the best movie. It's just your favorite movie.
I could watch Scott Pilgrim all day.
That's a great choice.
It's a good choice. Very good choice.
Speaking of movies, that's a good segue into my next question. What event in your life would make a good movie?
I think you could make an interesting young adult drama, not unlike Scott Pilgrim, but not nearly as fun or interesting, about the time I spent doing college radio.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, that is pretty cool.
I felt like there was a huge cast of interesting characters there that came from all walks of life, and by the end, we would hate all of them. No, I love those people. That's not fair. It would be interesting though to some degree. I think it would be like college radio, news radio, but a movie.
That was a great show.
News radio is excellent.
News radio.
What color is your aura?
Orange, I guess.
Fair.
If you were falsely convicted of a crime, how would you adapt to prison life?
Well, what style of prison are we talking here?
Well, not like Oz type prison, but somewhere between Oz and like Orange is the New Black.
I mean, if it's not a killer,
And you
to be
know, you
killed
do think orange is your
situation.
favorite color, so the color of your aura, so that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, this is all fitting.
It is.
Much like the jumpsuit they would inevitably give me. I don't know. Everything I've ever learned from watching television and prison, which is always the best way to live your life.
I think that's accurate. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's get on top or be on bottom. So
Literally.
yeah, I guess I'd have to make an example of somebody as quickly as
Yes, you
possible.
would.
Start swinging. What you're swinging is up to you.
Oof, it is prison. So
What does your perfect morning look like?
sleep till 9:30. Sleeping again for another 10 to 30 minutes.
Mhm.
And then I don't know, a light breeze coming in through the window, a bowl of Wheaties, and
Wheaties.
yeah, I love Wheaties.
That's going to bring me to my next question, but I'll let Andy go.
What job doesn't exist but should?
Oh wow. Lately, I think proofreader on website writing doesn't exist.
You really have a bone to pick with the education system and like English in general.
I read so many articles every day where I'm just like, did anybody even spot check this?
Well, as
Commas, do you know them?
as two people who write for our own website, I will tell you that me proofing his and him proofing mine does not go well.
It's so hard to self-edit too, because it's like you see the same words on the page for like days at a time, and it looks okay, but then Steven's like, you forgot like 5 words in the sentence. I'm like, yeah, that
The worst
sounds
is
about right.
when you go back like a month and read something you wrote previously, and you're like, what was that? Was I on drugs?
No, you want to know what the worst thing is? Reading something out loud for a video that you wrote 5 months ago. I did that recently, and I was like, "Holy shit! This is just vomit." These sentences are terrible. What was I thinking? Is cereal a soup?
No.
Cake
I think-
or pie?
I think soup has to be hot, and I would pick pie over cake 100 out of 100 times.
Steven?
Do you have any odd talents?
Odd talents. What am I good at? Most people, I would say I'm oddly talented at writing video game music, but you guys already know that. So this is not a real life question. This is a what I want my life to be question. So, what am I weirdly good at? Not answering this question. That's for dang sure. I don't want to come back to proofreading, but maybe proofreading.
Okay.
All right, we'll go with that. Would you rather have the power of flight or invisibility?
Invisibility.
All right, that's it. Anthony, I'm getting married at some point next year, I think. You're my best man. It is now official. You are my soulmate, I think.
That sounds good.
You are the one that I've been missing in my life. My fiance is great and all, but
I am
don't
going
know.
to make sure that you two are not anywhere near the possibility of getting the power of invisibility. Because there's nothing that comes good out of that, period. All right, my next one, and this one might have a little bit of a longer answer, but tell us your favorite joke.
I feel like I missed the question or it cut somehow.
Oh, I'm sorry. Tell us.
That's not your fault.
Tell us your favorite joke.
Favorite joke? Oh, the first joke I thought of is not a good one. That is what I'll go with, but I'll preface this with saying I don't think it's appropriate.
Okay.
Do you guys? It's not. There's no swearing, but
I mean, we can swear on the show, and we're all
Yeah, I
being
don't know.
inappropriate.
Listen,
so I
as
think we
long
should-
as-
at this
long
point,
as-
we can't walk it back.
As long as you don't feel like there's going to be some sort of hashtag later on when this is dug up after your world's famous video game designer.
Oh yeah, let me think of a different joke.
You don't want to be the start of a hashtag. Let's just put it that way.
No. I think there's enough of that going around for all of us.
Oh my
Favorite
God.
joke. Shoot. That's I don't know. I don't think I have a lot of preloaded jokes like that.
All right. Andy,
I'm sorry to disappoint
it's
you
okay.
on that one.
It's okay. Hey,
All right.
it was a new question. I've never asked it on this.
I have a simpler question to ask.
Okay.
Is it wrong for a vegetarian to eat animal crackers?
I mean, it depends on what they're made of, really, right?
Well, listen, I'm just saying animal crackers. I'm not saying that they're in the box or that they're crackers made from animals.
So these are like free range
saying
animal crackers, not in captivity. No, I think if they're as long as they fit the dietary restrictions of what that vegetarian or vegan is
Okay.
following, they're allowed. They're not real faces on these fake animals, though they are real crackers.
Now let me ask you this. I want to add a modifier to this.
Yes, go ahead. Yes.
What if there is a shaman or some sort of voodoo master, and they claim that they have transferred the souls of animals into the animal crackers? They just claim this, but their job is shaman. Like that is what they do.
So there is a soul trapped inside this non-moving.
You don't know that. It's just what the shaman told you.
I think you eat the crackers.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, is it a matter of starving to death,
Just to find out. I would just do it to find out.
or is it just? I guess. How would you even know? Do you know when you ingest a soul?
I mean, I imagine it's more like a Chucky situation. Like transferring a soul like that.
Get gassy. That's how you know.
Ooh.
You've adjusted someone's
All
soul.
right, Andy. Final
If
question.
I ate
from
an
you.
animal cracker and got like a passenger on board, I would be pretty upset. So I'm gonna go with don't do it.
Beware the voodoo crackers.
See, that's what you get for having me explain Stephen King to you, Stephen.
I know.
You're talking about shamans and food.
I'm just trying to. I want to make.
You're referencing thinner there on the low key.
I want to make
You just don't know it.
a horror movie for children. Is it possible? Do you think?
I would like to work with you on this project.
Mm-hmm. All right. Final question, Andy.
All right, Anthony. Final question. Ready for this? This is the be all end all of rapid fire questions.
Edge of my seat.
Yes. And the question is, Steven or Andy?
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. Now he's already professed his love for you and said that you're his soulmate. So if that weirds you out or creeps you out in any way, not that there's anything wrong with that, I could tell you.
You know what? Just so I can add to that, the fact that you said that pineapple on pizza is horrifying and should be just outlawed entirely.
I'm pretty sure he didn't say horrifying.
He did say it. Yes,
I don't think
hear
he
it.
said horrifying.
He did say that.
All
He
right.
did say it
Well,
in so many words.
it's not like. All right,
And
let me just put it
The
this way.
fact that he also said he preferred the power of visibility,
Right.
it's a win for me, I feel.
Well, I'm not sure I want him to choose me at this point. If I'm being completely honest with you.
I
But
think if he does choose you, I'd be happier with that. But we'll see what
I
happens.
think if
Anthony,
he chooses me at this point, it is a character flaw.
I am copping out on you guys because I like you both, and
Aw, that's so
I'm not getting in the
sweet.
middle here. I like both you guys. Big group hug.
All right.
That's great, man. I'll take that.
I'll take it too. And I'll take it all the way to the end of the show. Thank you so much for listening, everybody out there who's listening. Thank you, Anthony, for being on the show. Folks, if you want to follow us all on the social media, you can do so. We are at NDS Podcast. I am at BatChild27. Andy is at PantsGuy. And if you want to join our Facebook group, it's facebook.com/groups/Dual Screens Podcasts. Where can everybody find you, Anthony?
You can find me personally at Hang On Get Ready on Twitter. Neon Deity Games, I think, is the handle for the dev company itself. We're on Facebook and Instagram under similar names. If it's not Neon Deity Games, it's Neon Deity. Just depends on what we can get, or just neondeity.com is our website.
Sweet. All right. So what else we got here? I believe it is Neon Deity Games for Twitter. If you want to follow us on Twitch, you could do so at twitch.tv/dualscreenstreams. We want to thank our contributors. Our theme song, Retro Chatter by Bradley Parsons at Train Sound Studio. Thank you, Andrew Douglas, for all of our delicious and wonderful cartoon art. Oh my God, we finally got, just a couple of weeks ago, as of you listening to this, we got our Andy Explains It All art. And it is just magnificent. And if you haven't seen it, please look up that show. And what is that show? Don't worry, I'm going to tell you in a couple of moments. If you want to send us an email, you could do so at feedback@ndspodcast.com. And if you want to buy some sweet, sweet merchandise, you can go to teespring.com/store/dual-screens-shop. And you got to put little dashes between dual and screens and shop. It's just how they did it. I am going to get the URL for dualscreens.com/shop to just direct there eventually. We'll get Maltese on it. Maltese, you listening? Get on that. Thanks again one more time to Melted Pins and the Minds Behind the Games, which is out right now. That is it. That is another exciting installment of the Dual Screens podcast. Remember, we are now offering seasonal content. The first of which is Andy Explains It All, a show where one idiot, Andy, explains to the other idiot, that would be me, a topic that he is super passionate about and that I know nothing about. You can catch Andy Explains It All along with the rest of our seasonal content throughout the year, every other Friday. Andy, is there anything you want to tell the kids before we go?
I mean, I'd like to announce our next guest, but we have like 5 interviews lined up, so
yeah, we don't know which one's going to air when.
Tell who's going to go first.
Yeah.
So let's look at the Twitters.
Yeah, follow us on Twitter,
on the social media.
And of course, all of our patrons get to know all of this stuff beforehand because we discuss all this stuff in our Discord. So if you want to do that, go to patreon.com/NDS podcast. That's patreon.com/NDS podcast. Remember, folks, let me just make sure. Yep, we are going to PAX East. I just wanted to check the date one more time because I forgot what month we were in because I'm an idiot. We are going to PAX East. So if you are going to be at PAX East, look us up. And if you want to help us at any moment, at any time during the show, during the convention, let us know. We're going to be there, and we're going to need help getting around and, shooting videos and doing interviews and stuff. So if you want to be a part of our street team, look us up, hit us up. That's it. We did it. We got to the end. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Stephen.
And thank you, Anthony.
It was an absolute honor.
I can't wait to have you back on the show. We would love to have you back when you get a little bit more closer to release. Do you want to tell everybody one more time where they could follow everything about Junk Puncher? Just one last time.
Sure. Neon Deity Games or Neon Deity, depending on which social media platform you use. And we're pretty much on all of them. So find us. neondeity.com is probably the most direct route.
Awesome.
And consider us your first 2 Kickstarter pledges when the time comes,
Indeed.
by the way. In case you were wondering.
I will be sure to let you guys know when we have it up. That is, thank you. It means a lot.
Awesome. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Anthony. That is it. This has been the Dual Screens Podcast. Until next time, take care. And as always, please be excellent to each other.